"You're being replaced," Walker said, grinning like he just solved world peace instead of gutting my job. "Some expert from Google. She starts Monday." I didn't flinch, just nodded once and kept my face empty. That threw him off, just for a second, barely a flicker, but I caught it. "My name's Daniel. I'm 47 years old. I live in Fairfax, Virginia. I've worked in federal contracts for 22 years, and Walker? He's been here maybe 7 months. He gave one cringy TEDx talk in Seattle and now walks around the floor with a gold pen like he's signing off on missile treaties." He leaned back in his chair, tapping the pen against his teeth like he expected me to beg. "It's not personal," he added. "It's just fresh vision, you know? Energy." I gave him nothing. No snark, no pushback. Just kept nodding like I was hearing the weather. The woman, my replacement, had shown up last week under the usual bullshit. Some kind of cross-department collaboration, she said. Smart, confident, not too eager. A perfect polished package. Background looked clean, too clean. No overlap with any real agencies, no clearance trail that I could verify, no obvious skeletons. She smelled like a plant. And Google? Nobody from Google lands in a mid-tier federal contracting firm unless they're falling or fishing. Walker kept talking, something about vision alignment and leadership evolution. I zoned it out. My focus was on the calendar invite behind his head. Monday, 9:01 a.m., access credentials for her already scheduled. Too fast. Way too fast. "Any thoughts?" he finally asked, like this was a discussion. I stood up. "Nope. Appreciate the clarity." He blinked. One hand hovered over the gold pen like he expected a different ending. I walked out without a word, nodding at his assistant on the way. Quick note. Before we go deeper, share which city or country you're watching from. My head was calm, but inside, I was 10 steps ahead. I'd seen agency plants before. They always came in hot, with just enough shine to blind a weak boss and just enough fake polish to pass a background skim. The difference this time? They were walking into my house. I didn't slam doors, didn't tip my hand. But I knew damn well what I was looking at. This wasn't a promotion story. This was a setup, and I was going to let it play all the way out. By Wednesday, the whispers had started. I walked into the kitchen, and 2 analysts cut off their conversation mid-sentence. Someone in ops asked if I was still staying through Friday. Even the interns gave me that wide-eyed pity look, like I'd been diagnosed with something terminal. They'd all seen her. Sleek hair, clean blazer, polished nails, a LinkedIn smile, and just enough tech lingo to fake fluency. They thought she was the future. They looked at me like I was already gone. Her resume had all the right logos: Stanford, Google, a startup exit with a successful acquisition that somehow didn't leave a trace online. When I read it, it felt like reading a press release written by a bot. No scars, no stumbles, just pure fiction wrapped in buzzwords. I didn't say anything. Just cleaned house. I archived my team reports, off-boarded the shared drives, ran final integrity scans on every system I touched. My access logs would be spotless, my digital fingerprints wiped. I cleared my whiteboard, pulled the backup disks, and tucked the last folders into a sealed courier box for HR. Then I shut my laptop. One last look around, and I walked. Out in the parking lot, I pulled my phone from the side pocket of my bag and dialed. 1 ring. "She's in," I said. Click. That was all that needed to be said. Thursday was quiet. She didn't try to talk to me. Didn't ask for a handover. Didn't ask what I did with the archive project pipeline, or why she couldn't access my client folders. She was too confident for that. She thought the work was over, thought it was hers. I watched her skim a slide deck I knew she didn't understand. She asked a developer what data ingestion protocol meant. He told her, and she nodded like she already knew. She didn't. I went home early that day, told Walker I had dentist appointments. He didn't care. He was too busy showing her off to the CTO like a new Tesla. Friday morning, 8:12 a.m., I hit send on the farewell email. 12 lines, no warmth, no fluff. Just dates, roles, and best of luck. I CC'd Walker, the CEO, and 3 of our largest federal clients. The language was neutral, the subtext wasn't. People came by my desk pretending to be surprised. "Didn't know you were leaving," one said. I nodded. "Yeah, it was sudden." It wasn't. By 10:30, I had my box packed, badge clipped to the flap. One last walk through the floor, quiet as a shadow. At the elevator, I pulled my phone again and made the second call. She starts Monday. Make sure the right people know. No names, no titles, just facts. The line went dead. I walked out and didn't look back. Monday, 8:47 a.m., I scanned in with a visitor badge clipped to my belt. Walker insisted on a professional handover, like the past week hadn't happened. Whatever. I'd already set the clock ticking, now I just had to let it run. The receptionist gave me that tight, polite smile that said she knew more than she was allowed to say. I smiled back, didn't stop walking. 10 minutes later, she arrived. Designer blazer, crisp white shirt, iPad under one arm. She walked in like she owned the place and smiled like LinkedIn just offered her a lifetime subscription. Morning, she said, like we were old friends. Hey, I said. Nothing more. She headed straight for the desk I cleared on Friday and logged in like she'd been doing it for years. No onboarding, no walkthrough, no waiting on credentials. She was inside systems within minutes. I watched her pull up federal contract databases that usually took 2 weeks of clearance processing to unlock. I leaned back in the chair across from her, arms folded, pretending I was checking emails. You find everything you need? I asked. She nodded without looking up. All good. Walker had most of it squared away ahead of time. Of course he did. I pulled up the shared calendar to keep the act alive. That's when I saw it. 2 us p.m. Meeting, room 2C, codename client alias I'd seen for years. High security contract. Not just NDAs, deep clearances, rotating encryption keys, in-person verifications. She had it booked like it was a dentist appointment. You meeting with 7 Sierra? I asked, keeping my tone casual. She glanced at me, half smile still there. Yeah. Walker expedited my clearance, said it was all greenlit. Right, greenlit. On a weekend. With a federal client that doesn't even reply to emails without triple authentication. I kept my mouth shut, eyes open. The fuse was already lit. She rolled right through the morning like a woman with nothing to hide. Chatted with the project leads, dropped the right acronyms, asked the kind of questions that sounded smart but didn't scratch the surface. All style, no scar tissue. And the team, they ate it up. A few of them had already flipped, offering to help her get ramped up, laughing at her little jokes, treating her like she'd always been here. One guy even offered her his monitor setup. By noon, she was connected to everything I used to touch. Full access, live dashboards, financials, vendor lists, direct paths to our top 3 agency contacts. No guardrails, no compartmentalization. It was beyond reckless. It was surgical. I grabbed a coffee I didn't want and walked past her desk just in time to catch her messaging, walk her something about aligning strategies across verticals. Total garbage. He replied, "We'll circle up after 2. Smiley face. That meeting was still on. I didn't say anything. Didn't warn her, didn't warn him either. Let them walk straight in. Let the cameras roll. At exactly 11:46, they walked in. 2 men, dark suits, no lanyards, no hesitation. They came through the main entrance like they owned the place. Didn't check in, didn't look around, didn't slow down. You could tell immediately they weren't visitors. One had a black folder under his arm. The other had a face like granite and zero patience. They didn't ask where Walker's office was, just walked straight to it. Door closed, blinds drawn. Nobody knocked, nobody breathed. I was 2 rows over with my badge flipped upside down, pretending to skim onboarding forms. Every screen around me stayed open, but nobody was reading. 5 minutes passed, then 10. Walker's voice floated out once, sharp and nervous, then nothing. At 12:03, the suits came back out. They didn't head to the front desk. They turned left and walked into the break room, right past the engineer pod and the DevOps guys frozen mid-lunch. She was in there, sitting on the corner stool, laughing about something dumb one of the junior PMs had said. Her coffee cup was half full. Her voice hit that same fake confident pitch she'd been using all morning. The taller suit approached her. "Miss, I need your badge." She blinked once, still smiling, but the sound dropped out of her voice. "Of course," she said. No fight, no panic, no questions. She reached for her lanyard like it was part of a drill, peeled it off, handed it over. "Should I leave my laptop with Dev?" she asked, nodding toward the engineer who'd just offered to help set up her calendar integrations. "No," the shorter one said, stepping forward. She held the laptop out anyway, like she was offering a gift. The taller suit intercepted it, took it with one hand, already reaching into his jacket with the other for something that looked like a sealable bag. The break room went dead silent. She didn't argue, didn't ask what this was about. Just nodded, smoothed her blazer, and walked between them like she'd practiced this. No cuffs, no struggle, just quiet, deliberate movement. They didn't touch her, just walked behind her with the kind of precision you only see from people who know exactly how to extract without spooking the herd. As they passed the product team's row, someone started to stand, then sat right back down. She glanced back once, just for a second, not at Walker, at me. I didn't blink. They reached the elevator. The doors opened before they had to press the button. Gone. Not a single word from anyone. Every screen stayed on, but not a single hand was on a keyboard. The DevOps lead turned and looked at the chair she'd been sitting in. Then at the floor. Walker's office door was still closed, blinds still drawn. And all across the floor, you could feel it. Something deep in the foundation had just shifted. Like the building was still standing, but the ground underneath it wasn't solid anymore. The second the elevator doors shut behind her, the whispers started up like someone unmuted the whole floor. Federal jurisdiction. Active investigation. Walker screwed. By 12:30, nobody was even pretending to work. They stared at screens, refreshed inboxes, reloaded chat threads. I sat at the edge of the bullpen with a borrowed laptop, finishing handover documentation that no one would ever read. HR walked past twice. No smiles, no small talk. Just manila folders and tight jaws. At 1:10, Walker finally opened his office door. He looked like someone had punched him behind the eyes, sweaty, dazed, blinking too often. He didn't say a word, just headed straight for the glass conference room and closed himself in. 10 minutes later, 2 HR reps followed with laptops and notepads. No coffee, no water, no hospitality. I stayed where I was, watching from my corner like a ghost in plain sight. Every once in a while, I clicked my mouse just to keep the screen alive. By 2 ORS, internal audit was up and running. Requests came flying in, document trails, system access logs, hiring paperwork, clearance forms, all routed through HR, all tagged with his name. I got a ping from compliance. Can you confirm date of access revocation for your systems? I replied, Friday 10:31 a.m., all logs clean. The response came fast. Noted, thank you. By 2:30, someone from legal flagged the authorization forms Walker signed to onboard her. Full access across 3 restricted systems with no secondary review. Direct override of standard protocol. Time-stamped approvals from his account. They weren't looking at her anymore. They were looking through her, at what she'd walked into, and who opened the door. At 3 on, our main government client issued a formal hold order. All work under contract suspended. Access revoked. Projects paused. Translation. Millions frozen. They didn't even call. They just sent a blanket lockout to our terminal. Engineers were mid-commit when their credentials died. Someone from contracts yelled across the hall, "We just got black-holed. Entire SOW queue's gone." Nobody responded. Walker had his phone out, pacing behind the glass like a rat in a trap. He kept dialing someone, probably upstairs. His voice was low, rushed, desperate. I heard the word misunderstanding, then pre-cleared, then temporary situation. Didn't matter, too late. The suits hadn't just taken her. They took her like she was one piece of a much bigger board. And now, Walker was stuck holding the box, trying to explain how a federal red flag walked straight into our servers and made herself at home, with his signature on every door. By 4 I got the message I'd been waiting for. It was a short one, just 3 words from a contact inside compliance. Confirmed federal target. Not a suspicion, not a background error, a clean hit. She wasn't just on a watch list. She was already in an open file. I called him. No need for texting now. She was active, I asked. Hot, he said. Real hot. Financial fraud tied to a shell network flagged in 4 states. Agency you were supposed to meet with today? They're the ones building the case. Of course they were. That 2 p.m. meeting she had scheduled, that wasn't a briefing. It was a setup. She would have walked into that room, smug and smiling, thinking she was closing a contract, and instead, they would have closed the door behind her. We saw the flag within 8 minutes of login, he said. Our back-end scanners caught a name mismatch in the vendor registry. triggered up the chain before she even finished importing her user profile. "Anyone upstairs trying to clean it?" I asked. He laughed once. Cold. "Nope. Legal's distancing. The signal came from Federal, not us. This isn't ours anymore." I hung up. Back at my desk, Walker was still circling the drain. His face was bright red, jaw clenched, phone pressed hard to his ear. I watched him bark into it, trying to control a fire with a water pistol. Too late. He'd paraded her around like a prize pig, introduced her to the team, bragged about her Google years, dropped her name in meetings she had no business being in, all while the system had her pinned. And the best part? I didn't plant her. But I made damn sure no one missed her once she walked through the door. There's a reason I never scrubbed the compliance alerts, never turned off the internal redundancy scans. There's a reason I let her plug into every system with a smile on her face. Because I knew what the system would see, and I knew what it would do when it saw it. Walker didn't know any of that. He thought his golden hire was a shortcut to some executive promotion. Fast growth, fresh strategy, blah, blah, blah. What he actually did was hand-feed our company's credibility to a federal agency with a live wire in their hands. Her name is now flagged across every contract we've ever touched. Every one of those contracts now has his initials on the onboarding forms. I walked to the kitchen, poured myself a cup of that bitter, burned office coffee, and stood by the window while HR continued their scavenger hunt. Walker's name was all over everything. And the thing about red flags, they bleed. At 12:38, Walker's phone rang. He answered on speaker, probably trying to look calm, like this was just another Monday. Wrong. The voice on the other end was the CEO, and his tone wasn't calm. It carried straight across the floor, loud enough that half the bullpen froze mid-keystroke. "You brought a federal target into our systems." That was the sentence, the bullet that ended him. Walker stammered. "Hold on, that's not accurate. There was no—" "Shut up," the CEO snapped. "Get in my office, now." Walker didn't argue, didn't ask for clarity. Just grabbed his blazer off the back of his chair and bolted toward the elevators like he could outrun the consequences. I sipped my coffee and watched HR move in behind him. They swarmed his office without a word, 3 of them, 2 with laptops, 1 with a red file folder already half open. Every drawer got emptied. Paper after paper landed in neat, damning piles. His signature, his timestamps, his override codes. By ones, the office was stripped clean. The CTO walked past my desk a few minutes later, eyes straight ahead, phone pressed to his ear. I heard him say, "We're going to have to recertify every access point, all of them." Then the email hit, subject, urgent, contract freeze notification. Body, estimated revenue loss, chapter 15%. 15%. There it was. My number, my severance clause, buried 12 pages deep in a contract I negotiated back when I still had pull, kicked in automatically at 10. 15 meant max trigger, no haggling, no delay. Walker's mistake was about to triple my payout. People started talking again, but now it was quieter. Not shock anymore, resignation. Like they could feel the shift happening in real time. Some guy in finance muttered, "That's it, we're cooked." Someone else said, "You think Walker gets walked today?" HR was still in his office, still scanning, still pulling receipts. I refreshed my inbox again. Nothing from legal yet, but it was coming. A clause is a clause, and mine was written with teeth. Walker had taken a bad hire and turned it into a financial hemorrhage with federal implications. He had no idea who she really was, no idea who I really was either. By Thursday morning, I was in my lawyer's office, coffee in hand, contract folder open on the table between us. "Clause is clean," he said, flipping to the flag section. Triggered the moment they logged the revenue hit. No appeals, no carve-outs. I already knew that, but I read it again anyway. Page 9, Section 3, Line 6. In the event of a 10% or greater revenue impact traced to operational security breach, the undersigned shall receive maximum contractual severance, full benefits extension, and expedited payout. 15 years ago, I had to fight like hell to get that clause in. Back then, I was valuable enough to make people uncomfortable. Back then, I had leverage. Now, that one sentence had just bought me freedom. He slid the final document across the table. I looked at the number, paused, then laughed. It was absurd, in the best possible way. "Initial here," he said. I signed without a second thought. My phone buzzed as I capped the pen. CEO. I stared at the screen, let it ring out. Want me to call back? My lawyer asked. No, I said. I'm done negotiating. He smiled. I figured you might be. I stood, tucked the check into my coat pocket, and shook his hand. Outside, the air felt cleaner. Or maybe that was just what relief felt like after 22 years, in a building full of politics, ego, and dead-end loyalty. As I walked back to the lot, I pictured the scene still unfolding in that glass tower. Walker, probably surrounded by suits, sweating through his shirt, running out of versions to explain, and her, if she was lucky, still in a soundproof room somewhere, answering questions from men who already had the answers. That fire was theirs now. Mine was out. And I didn't look back.